The next thing we'll look at is two sets of identities. The first of these sets are called the reciprocal identities. Basically, these state that sine and cosecant are reciprocals of each other. Likewise, cosecant and sine are reciprocals of each other. In other words, they relate sine of theta is equal to 1 over cosecant of theta, and vice versa. Okay, same thing. Cosine is equal to 1 over secant. And that being the case, secant is equal to 1 over cosine. Tangent is equal to 1 over cotangent. And cotangent is equal to 1 over tangent. And so, based on what we talked about earlier, this is a formal statement of the pairs of trig functions that are reciprocals of each other. Let me do a simple example that they may ask you in your homework. Given that secant of theta equals -2, find the value of cosine of theta. Well, you know that secant and cosines are reciprocals of each other. Notice that the two theta measures are the exact same thing. And so on here, you would say because secant is equal to -2, you could also write that as -2 over 1, cosine of theta is equal to the reciprocal of that, 1 over -2, and that would be your answer. Now, let me go on to look at one other set of identities. These are called the quotient identities. This gives an identity for tangent and for cotangent. It turns out that tangent is equal to the ratio of sine over cosine. You could derive this identity by plugging in the x and y and r values for sine and cosine, and they would result in the ratio of y over x, which is equal to tangent. Now, you know that tangent and cotangent are reciprocals of each other. And so certainly, if tangent is equal to sine over cosine, then cotangent is the reciprocal of that, cosine over sine. Let me do an example that shows these two identities. For this particular problem, I'm going to be given two things. If sine of theta equals 8 square roots of 113 over 113, and cosine of theta is equal 7 roots of 113 over 113, I want to find tangent of theta. Given these two values, then to find tangent of theta, then I can use the ratio of sine over cosine to find that. So in other words, my identity says that the tangent of theta is equal to the sine of theta over the cosine of theta. Sine of theta has been given to me in this problem. It's 8 roots of 113 over 113. Now this is going to be divided by the value of cosine. The value of cosine was given as 7 roots of 113 over 113. Now this kind of looks like an ugly mess, but what you can do is you can say on the top you see the ratio, the root of 113 over 113, and on the bottom you see that same ratio showing up, and so those two things actually cancel and you get a result that tangent of theta is equal to 8 over 7. This concludes the lesson over reciprocal identities and quotient